space as our, in many ways, I feel like the real pioneering spirits of the spiritual community, John and Natalie Tyler, have come today to share from their hearts what they experienced in Africa. So, first of all, let's just say thank you, John and Natalie.
Thank you for being here.
How do you say thank you
In Swahili, you say asante.
Asante.
I know one Swahili word, karibu, which is welcome.
Welcome.
Karibu.
There you go.
Caribou.
Karibu.
Caribou Barbie.
I invite you to close your eyes and just turn your awareness within, but in so doing, to direct the spirit of your heart, the spirit of your entire being without. We recognize that John and Natalie come today to share from an experience where a journey that they took in mileage in the outer world was most profoundly experienced of a journey of within each of their own hearts, their own experience. They're inspired this day to share this journey so that each of us can ask and receive, can seek and find, can learn. And in that beautiful spirit of Ohana, of taking all that we are and combining it to create something that transcends all of our individual parts, to recognize and to know that we are all connected, one family, the family of God. For the sacred time of sharing together, we're truly grateful. We bless this time as it is a blessing to us. Thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.
Oh,
Thank you, John.
thank you so much, Charlie. Thank you so much, all of you.
Karibu. Asante.
Good. The last day we were there, John found that shirt.
This is my crib sheet. My Swahili term.
Well, it was the last day that he found that with the giraffes.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to find out that the giraffes are taller than he is. At last. So we're going to show some pictures. We have a lot of pictures out there. And we're going to show some that are especially big. I was so tired the day we went to Costco that I don't think I made all the ones as big as I would have liked. But there's some that we just have to show as we talk. So you pay attention to what we're saying and to the pictures. I want to start out when we got
I think we should tell people where the bathroom is.
in Swahili. Yeah, please.
There's one over, as you walk through this little entryway on the right, there's a door with this bathroom and it says out of order. Don't be deterred. You go to the left here, and is it through the office?
Well, there are two bathrooms. One is straight through, and the other one you go through an office.
Okay, so you make a left and then a right into the office, and then the bathroom is in the back of the office. So don't be put off by the out of order thing. Enough housekeeping. Okay, go ahead. Well, what you just heard, the drumming you just heard at our conference in South Africa, each morning there was a keynote address about 8 o'clock. And when you walked into this great big ballroom, hotel ballroom full of people, 300 or 400 people, there were 3 or 4 African drummers up on the stage just going wild with this stuff for like 15 minutes. I mean, everybody that walked in got a taste of it, and then we sat down and it just kept playing. And then after a few minutes, these women in these beautifully colored clothes with the headdresses and everything would get up and they'd start to march and dance around the room. And throughout, we were at a little round table, like 10 of us at a table. And they would weave in and out of the tables, and each time they went by a table, they'd pick up more people. The South Africans got into this immediately. All the hosts, all the white people that were hosting the conference, and the black people that were part of the conference, they were in this line right away.
It was the hosting, the black and white people rose.
Right, and then we all got up and we did this for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, jumping around the room playing this music, and you could just feel the energy in the room going up until when you sat down, you couldn't wait to get going. I mean, it's just amazing. So I wanted to do this here today, and we kind of got out of sync with it. We played it so you came in, so you got a sense of what it's like, and your imagination's
Well, I'm going to start with how when we first got there, it was so amazing. Who did you go with? We went with each other. What happened is we go every year into a different country. The transactional analysis The International Transactional Analysis, the European Association of Transactional Analysis, the South American Transactional Analysis Association, Mexican Transactional Analysis Association, Canadian, USATA. So we always meet in a different country. But this is the first year we got a new chapter, South African Association of Transactional Analysis. Woo!
So they host a conference.
What is transactional
It's a form of therapy that we do that I believe goes the deepest and does. We continually do more research, and we keep researching and learning new things. It's like I've never known of any particular kind of therapy where they keep on learning new things. So it's very new. It's new, like Eric Byrne started in the 40s, but it's. But it's still in the 60s. But it's still so new that even we have it in South Africa.
And as it spreads further and further around the world, they're bringing their own approach to it. Each country has a different cultural approach. So when we get together at these international conferences, there were maybe 350 people from 27 countries.
400.
Okay. 27 different countries, and we're all cross-pollinating. Workshops, each person does a workshop if they want, or other people come to workshops, so there's a constant growth.
And John and I hosted one here 10 years ago, and we had people from every country. We had people from, of course, from Japan and Korea and Okinawa and from Russia and from every place. So here there were people from 27 countries. And we saw a couple of our friends from Chile, and we hadn't seen them for several years. So we're out there hugging them and carrying on. And then we walk in the room, and so it seemed like everybody else was seated already, and they started screaming. We were in our usual attire. They started screaming, "Obama! Yay, Obama!" Everybody at the conference. The Russians, they drove me crazy. They wouldn't stop screaming. And so they were all screaming, "Yay, Obama! Hooray, Obama!" These were people from all over the world. And so then after a while, they started screaming, "Yay, John and Natalie!" This is our introduction to South Africa. So we go and we look for our table 10, because all our friends from all over the world, we always sit together every year in a different country, and it's always table 10. So you told me you went out and you signed up for Lucy's table, but it's table 10. So there we were with our friends in table 10, and we were having the most wonderful time. And then you want to talk about
something? We had Gloria from Mexico, as the past president of the International Transactional Analysis Association, but she had just completed a PhD program in Mexico about 2 years ago. Her thesis was on violence toward women and how it is influenced by the culture, the Mexican machismo culture. And she wrote this wonderful thesis that was selected by as the best publication in Mexico that year, best psychological publication in Mexico. She received a prize for that. And then Pearl from India does a lot of work with lower caste people in India, so she got the humanitarian award. And let's see, Natalie was named a diplomat of the Redecision Therapy Association, which is a part of transactional analysis. And then one of the co-chairpersons of the conference, Diane Salters, I need to tell you this story because it's a great lead-in to a lot of what went on for us. She grew up in South Africa.
She's white.
Born and raised in South Africa under apartheid. And as she got to be a young adult, she began actively acting against apartheid, protesting, demonstrating, supporting other people who were protesting and demonstrating. She was thrown in prison several times, and she began to be afraid that they were going to disappear her, because they disappeared a lot of people. So she ran away to England. She left the country and went to England and started a new life. She got married, she raised a family, she started a family there. And in 1993, when Nelson Mandela was finally released from prison, she came back to South Africa. She became actively involved, along with a lot of other people, in rebuilding of South Africa. And if you don't know what apartheid was like, it was like the South in the worst possible days, where the whole government was behind it, not just the states and the local governments in the South. The national government of South Africa actively pursued a policy of intimidation, incarceration, violence, and death. They killed an awful lot of people. And horrible ways, tortured them. And the blacks had to live in special townships. We actually toured one of the townships where Nelson Mandela and Bishop Tutu saw the conditions under which they lived. But they were completely regulated. They had identity cards. It was just like Nazi Germany, where you had to have papers in order to pass through the boundary. If you want to leave your township, there were guards at all the exit points. You had to show your papers, and you had to show that you had a right to be going wherever you were going. You wanted to enter into a white enclave, you needed a pass.
To show you worked there.
To show that you had business there. You worked there for somebody, you were going to do a repair on something, and there was no public transportation. These people had to walk like 5 or 10 miles to get where they were going to go. So this was an incredibly oppressive regime, and Nelson Mandela, of course, was the figurehead of it, and they didn't know quite what to do with him, so they threw him in jail for 27 years. And they finally would pressure this country and a lot of other countries put pressure on the South African government. They took away all their economic support, and they literally compelled them to finally release Nelson Mandela and do away with the apartheid regime. And there was huge fear in South Africa that there would be a bloodbath. Because the blacks outnumber the whites 10 to 1. And there was no way that if the blacks truly got full freedom, and they were angry, most of them were really angry about the way they'd been treated for 40 years. And so there was this huge fear in this country that there was going to be this bloodbath. And Nelson Mandela and Bishop Tutu came out with this idea of the Truth and Reconciliation Commissions, which involved if a person who performed violence, who acted violently toward someone else, or took away a member of a family, or did something like that, if they were willing to come forward and admit what they did, tell the whole truth, all of it, exactly what they did, who they did it to, what they did with them, and everything else. And then that was done in front of the families of the victims, or the victims themselves if they were still alive. And then the victims would, in almost every case, once it was told, and the person said, "I'm sorry, I know what I did was not right, and please forgive me," then they would offer the forgiveness, and then there would be this reconciliation. And the incentive for this was that the perpetrator then was not subject to any criminal penalties, could not go to jail for what they had done. And so this was a way to heal the country. And the amazing thing that happened was that the victims and the families of the victims, who had, in many cases, had just not known what happened. There, all of a sudden, somebody was taken away in the middle of the night, and they never saw them again. And they didn't know, they didn't have any idea. In many cases, they found out not only what happened, but the person took them where the person was buried. And they were able to pick them up and get them from there. And the families and the victims found themselves getting healed by this process. When they were able to forgive the ones who had done this awful thing, they themselves felt healed finally after many, many, many years. So with this background, Diane Salters comes back to South Africa.
She's the co-chairperson of it.
Starts to work to rebuild the country, and when she's up on the stage when we were celebrating Mandela's 90th birthday party, she's addressing us all, and she said, "You know, the most wonderful thing about this is I've got my country back." And that just resonated with me. I mean, she had tears in her eyes, we had tears in our eyes, because that's what you could feel. You know, you were with the people who had done all this, who had been through it. It's this generation that had gone through this upheaval. And the excitement, the enthusiasm, the joy in that room, it was just palpable. Just tasted wonderful to be around. And that was the start of what I experienced as a real
And do you want to mention the Apartheid Museum?
Oh yeah, well then we did take an afternoon off, and we went to have a museum built on about apartheid. A lot of photographs and relics and things that happened. The first thing you do when you walk into this museum, there are 2 entrances. And it says colored and white. And you decide which entrance you want to go in. What?
Now?
Yeah. I mean, well, this is a museum. They're replicating the way it used to be. And so we chose to go on the colored field. And you were in a different track. It was interesting. For about the first 50 yards, you were on a different track with different photographs and different stuff. And the colored side was designed to make you really experience what it felt like to be a second-class citizen. or no citizen at all.
Yeah, not so.
Was the color side done by the colored people, the white side done by the white people, or was it all?
But
I believe this was a joint commission.
Yes.
I think that everything that we found out about what happened after Natalie was released and they started this new regime was they tried to do as much as possible together. You know, they had whites on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, they had blacks on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Because that was part of the goal, was to have it be representative of joining back together, reuniting. But the part that we went in, the colored part, that stuff was chosen specifically the black experience. But I think the people that put the museum together were a combination.
So our, may I go on? So our workshop was entitled Truth, Forgiveness, and Reconciliation. And our workshop was for couples who work with, was for therapists who work with couples. And some of the therapists brought their husbands or wives. And there were some of the therapists who brought their main couple clients to do the work with us. So how we all teach in all the different workshops, we do therapy with a couple, and then all the other therapists there take notes and learn how to do it. And so it was just so beautiful. We had so many African people and African couples and therapists who work with people from all over the world. The Russian couple just did the most amazing workshop. And right after our workshop was the International Transactional Analysis meeting, which I haven't missed in 30 years. And I couldn't go because our workshop couldn't end because people were so involved in the truth, forgiveness, and reconciliation. And all of a sudden, somebody yelled, "Natalie, you've never seen the South African sunset." So we all went to the window, and everybody watched that sunset, and then we bonded. And we just held hands with each other at the end. And somebody led us in an African song, which I don't think we know the words, but we sure felt it that night. And so then I went to a redecision therapy workshop, a youth therapy workshop, you see, and a healing in humor workshop. What did you?
I went to a family therapy marathon workshop out in a couple marathons. People get together for 12, 14 hours a day nonstop. And also I went to a great Zen therapy workshop with a wild-looking guy with a long white ponytail from Scotland. Who just led us through this incredible meditation for about 2 hours. It was amazing.
So then,
people were from all over the world. What was the common language?
oh, it's English, but we usually have a French and a Spanish interpreter at most of our workshops. And people in other countries, they also learn English. You know, I wish in our country we would teach a second language from the beginning on. And so many of the people in Africa knew English. And whenever we go to another country, he learns the language. I'm not as good at it. So he was speaking Swahili with the Africans, and they were saying all kinds of things.
And they appreciate it so much. You don't have to know much. I mean, here's my prayer sheet. It's like 12 words. But when you first go someplace and you say, Karibu, Asante, and what's that word?
Could you? We might go back.
Habari is Habari. The one I like is no problem. Hakuna Matata. But yeah, if you just say a couple of words in their language, our faces, like, we don't know most of them. Not in the bush, but in the towns and the lodges and the hotels, they all know English. So the temptation is you just talk English. But we made a point every single morning when we walked in the dining room and the greeter would say, "Asante, very good." And it was just that little connection.
When we walked to the dining room in the morning, the waiter would say, "Table 10, he knew our table." But our favorite restaurant here on Maui is Roy's. We always ask for table 10. When we get to Roy's, it's just our table all over the world. I went the last night of the conference, Nelson Mandela's 90th birthday. When he walked in the door, the African women, in all their gorgeous, gorgeous scarves and all different colors, all dance and march around and sing. And then, before you knew it, we were all up there dancing, every single one of us. I mean, it was so amazing. It was like we were on a different planet, in a different dimension, like the planet of love. It was the most incredible experience I could ever remember. Of everyone in that room, even the straightest psychiatrists and professors from the straightest countries, where they might not have known about all of this, everybody in that room was dancing. And it just went on and on and on. It was the most beautiful experience ever, ever, ever. And I walked up to Nelson Mandela, I'm proud to say, I said, "You're my hero." And he reached out his other hand too to me and he said, "You're my hero." Woo! Woo! Yeah. What a man. I mean, he meant it. He sees us all as just the same beautiful heroes. Whew. And so then, the floor show for Nelson Mandela's birthday party.
When we sat down to our tables to have dinner, they had entertainment, and it consisted of a black man and two white women doing modern interpretive dancing together with this great band. And I mean, the first thing that occurred to me was 15 or 20 years ago, this man would have been in jail or away somewhere for even associating with white people. And now they were doing this extremely erotic, sensual dance together. The whole room was just fixated and standing up and applauding these people. And again, I just got this real sense of transformation. This is a transforming country. They're not there yet. They've made a huge first step. They've gotten
They're working on it.
Hardest part. Now they've got a lot more to do. Because there's still a lot of people who do need to do. But watching those dances was just amazing. And now, of course, blacks can vote, blacks can go to school, blacks can go wherever they want. They have full equal rights.
Well, about the blacks going to school, I need to say, all of those black women at the conference, they're all in the university. They wouldn't have been allowed to walk into the university before Nelson Mandela was free. And they had all these beautiful colored scarves on their heads, and they were all there as part of because they belonged to the African Transactional Analysis Association. And our friend Diane is one of their professors at the university, so she's mentoring them. And one day we had Women's Day. And so I sat at the table with all of those women.
It was through the whole country, by the way. They had Women's Day.
In the whole country. Once a year they have Women's Day. We held hands, and each one of the sisters got a chance to stand up and say something about how good it felt to be with sisters from all over the world. Whew. It was just amazing. And the floor show for his party, and our friend Gloria, who got the award, who's from Mexico, our other friend Lucy brought champagne for everybody at our table. And we had birthday cake, Nelson Mandela birthday cake. And he walked around to the tables. Woo!
By the way, please ask questions.
Oh, as we
Glad
go
you do.
along.
Don't wait.
I'm just sitting so on this side.
I want to ask you, in your Women's Day, did they speak about the African mutilation of women
Oh, yes.
and what they're doing about it?
Yes, and those women are standing up for it. And they are marching, and they're going to hospitals, and they're going to doctors, and they're stopping it. It's not being done nearly as much, but somewhere out in some of the tribes where we didn't meet those people yet. The people in South Africa knew, and they were going to some of those places out in the tribes and trying to educate them. Oh, those women who are learning to be psychologists, they are traveling to the outskirts and teaching other people. Yes. It was just amazing how they are so into making everything good in their country now that they have an opportunity to speak.
Okay, so.
Oh, now keep asking questions as we go along. It's very informal here.
So that was our first step afterwards to go to this conference, which was in Johannesburg, South Africa. And we switched. This is where we had nice clothes, shoes, stayed in a hotel with hot cold water, civilization. Great. Now, and we have one bag with that stuff on. Now we put that bag into storage and we take our safari bag out, which is a lot more rustic than everything.
And we left our clothes with the people in Kenya. We just knew they'd be
First,
back.
we flew to Nairobi in Kenya because you can't even fly into Tanzania directly from anywhere. You got to go to a bigger airport. So we went to Nairobi. We left our good clothes suitcase with the people there, and then they flew us down to Kilimanjaro. That's actually in Tanzania. It's right on the border of Tanzania and Kenya. There's a town called Arusha, which has a smaller airport. So that's where we flew into. And then our safari started. We met by a guide in this fancy Range Rover, fancy for there, which had 2 seats in the front, the driver and the passenger, and then 6 seats elevated in the back. And the entire roof popped up.
Yeah.
So you could stand inside and look out. You were completely safe, but you had an unobstructed 360-degree view of the animals and the terrain and so forth. So they picked us up there, and they drove us to the first lodge, and they gave us a little orientation. But the most amazing thing about this journey was, and it actually started before we even got to South Africa, we were wearing our Obama buttons every step of the way. And if you remember, most of the people in airport security, most of the people, certainly most of the people that do your luggage, and a lot of the people that do this customs, especially in Africa, they're all black. They're all people of color. And these buttons invariably evoked a positive response. Like, oh, Obama. Oh, you're for Obama. Oh, good. You think Obama will? You think?
White people vote for Obama?
Yeah, we have these little chats with these officials. I mean, customs officials, especially in third world countries, can be very daunting and very uncooperative. But this got us through. I felt like I had a little extra passport on me.
Well, one time they would say to me, "You're for Obama? I don't need to inspect you. Go on through. I know you're a good person."
And I know we had 2 bags each, and we were on British Airways, and I thought we were able to check 2 bags, and they said, "Well, no, you can only check 1 bag." So I'm sitting there with 2 bags, wondering we don't carry these on. She said, "Well, try to fit it in there." So I put it in there and kind of scrunched it down. She said, "Okay, you go." So I know that this little rapport that we established with people got us a little extra step when we needed it. And it was also welcoming. When you go into a strange country and then you have this instant connection with these people, it was like, oh good, I'm glad I'm here. And it just gave us a positive start to the whole trip. We were going to places we'd never been before, we read a lot about it, but nothing possibly prepares you for the physical impact of being in Africa. It is a different land, it is a different country, it has a sense of timelessness about it. You're looking at, in many cases, you're looking at people that have lived this way for 1,000 years. As soon as you get out of the city, you're looking at people that haven't changed much. They don't have cars. Maybe they ride a bicycle, that's the height of their technology. But there's a real sense of timelessness and permanence, and the other thing is they don't have very much. They're very, very poor. Tanzania, one of the poorest countries in the world, and yet the people that we came in contact with were invariably friendly, they smiled a lot, they welcomed us, and by the way, being older is a real advantage there because they treat elders with tremendous respect. They call her Mama.
Oh, Mama, you go ahead, Mama.
Papa. They gave us their chairs. We got on this bus one time, it was full, and people immediately stood up and said, "Here." So it's a really nice culture, and there's a sense, the ohana that we hear about here in Hawaii and that we experience tastes of from time to time, it's pervasive there. It's how they get through their day. There's a sense that they're all in this together. So I'll say a little bit more about the lodges that we had an experience.
Well,
Yes.
you want to start with? I want to start with Darius. Well, is it okay if you if I show his picture? You want to wait? No, I want to start with what he said when we got in. I will show you more about Darius. See him with his Obama button that we gave him. I should have saved that for the end. But I have to tell you about Darius. He would look out when we get in the Jeep. Yes. See, Myrna's not sitting in the right place.
The rest of us.
Oh, where is it? But now you can show it again at the end. Can you see over there?
That's our guide in front of the vehicle.
Well, what he would do is, he would open the door of the Jeep. He was such a spiritual man. He would look down and he would say, what animals do you want to see? He would know by looking at the marks, at the droppings and the footprint, the paw prints, he would know which direction the animals would go. And he would look down, and that's how he would decide. He was such a spiritual man. And he said the most beautiful things. And so the first thing the first very few minutes after we were on the first trip was
the game drive.
Well, on the game
We're
drive.
driving down these, and they're all unpaved, rutted dirt roads. And we come around this corner, and this is in the middle of the road.
Big elephant right there in the road.
Big mom elephant in a mud puddle, squirting water over it.
I'm gonna sit back so
And does Darius just stop the Jeep?
we
We
sat there for 10
while.
minutes.
No. He said, we're on elephant time. The elephant moves, we move. And I think we were there 5 or 10 minutes. And the elephant wasn't at all, they're so used to us. So used to people being there. This is a preserve, there's no hunting, there's no violence against the animals whatsoever. And I think they kind of got used to it because, especially an elephant, you have no idea the real size of these elephants.
I have to show you how close he was to our Jeep. Right next to us.
This is the thing that holds up the roof of the Jeep. There's the elephant.
Oh.
This is when the baby was getting a little close.
Yeah.
Mama wasn't too happy about it. Kind of like the whales here in Hawaii.
Right next to us.
So this is Mama when she's not happy. When the ears come out. See? That's how you know Mama's. And she wasn't threatening, but it's like a sense of agitation.
Protecting her baby.
I'm not comfortable with what's going on here. And she came over really close to the vehicle.
Oh, these are just some bamboo. Some bamboo. Isn't that their everyday experience?
So at one point I'm standing up inside this vehicle, so I'm 2 feet off the ground to start with, and my eyes are about 6 feet above that, so I'm 8 feet off the ground, looking out at this elephant, maybe where Jason is, and I look in her eye, big elephant eye, and I'm looking up. I'm not looking this way, I'm looking this way.
Wow.
They're huge, and they're much bigger than the vehicle we're in. But as I say, they're not threatening on the road, but a sense of power, and they're so calm, they're so comfortable being where they are. We don't spook them at all. I mean, one time we stopped and they were right next to the vehicle, and Mama, the baby got curious and came up to us, and Mama shooed him away, so they started going across the road. They had to go around behind us like we were in their way. That was the sense I got. He said, oh, you're in my way, you got out of my way, I want to go over here. And they just slowly amble across the road and they pick up on the other side. So again, being that close to an animal that size is kind of impressive. That's the only word I can think of. It had a huge impression on me to stand up there and be looking up at this beast. And yet they're so human.
I fell in love with the animals, with the elephants.
They're so they're like, they feel like, I mean, I felt like I was with another being, no question about it. Not an animal, but a really intelligent, kind of, maybe even smarter than I was being
Well,
in a lot of
elephants,
ways.
they cry when somebody in their family dies, and the elephant smiled at me. I have a picture of the smiling
I was
elephant
laughing.
laughing at me, and the zebras would walk along, and then we'd stop our car, and one zebra would just decide to wait until we went by, and those tall ones, they're taller than he is, and they would eat the leaves off the trees. And the lions, I didn't like them as much because they kill other animals. But the animals who came close to us were the peaceful ones who were vegetarians. So
It was okay with me.
and the monkeys played so many. Oh, hi, sweetie. So glad you're here. And also, when you get tired of listening, you can look at all the animal pictures too. And so the monkeys would play hide and seek with us behind the leaves. Monkey would go behind the leaf and see the monkey eye come out of the hole, and the monkey would get up there and then go back down. And so the whole thing with the animals was really a great joy. And one of the first stops we made was to a MAUI village. And when we drove up,
This is a true mud hut village. Out in the middle of the Serengeti Plain, miles from anywhere, there's this little village, maybe 20 huts. They build the huts themselves. They build a little framework out of twigs, which they have to bring down from the mountains. They walk miles to get this stuff. They weave the twigs together, then they put a layer of mud on there, dry mud, they let the mud dry, and then they try to cover it with some cardboard in case it rains. We're in the dry season, so that wasn't a problem. But these huts are maybe 5 feet tall, and so the chief comes out to greet us. The chief's son comes out to greet us. The men are jumping around with their spears, and they all wear these really colorful clothes, bright purple and red and green and yellow, beautiful bright colors. And that's what they wear everywhere. This is out in the desert, and it's hot.
to keep the sun off.
And they wear this stuff to keep the sun off because they sometimes end up sleeping out there at night. And that's their warmth because it gets very cold at night. But anyway, they come out to greet us, and we get out of the vehicle, and this man walks up. There's this young African man, and he points at us and says, "Obama!"
And this is out in the wilderness. This is out in there.
There is no electricity, there is no telephone, there is no television. I mean, believe it, there is nothing. But they recognized this instantly. It was incredible. So we felt like we haven't quite left civilization yet. But then we found out we had, because then we got inside this village. And they build these villages for only a couple or 3 years to use up the site. They graze their cattle around there, and then they move. They'll pack the whole thing up, let it fall apart, and go on 5 miles away and build another village. But this village we went into, as I said, had about 20 huts. The men greeted us with the ceremonial dance where they're jumping up in the air. I have a few pictures of that. And they gave me this piece of wood with beads on it to shake around and jump up and down with them. But I'm a pretty good jumper, but boy, I could not keep up with these guys. I mean, they were 4 feet off the ground, and they kept it up. I mean, I was exhausted. I had to go stop and sit down, and they're still out there jumping. This is their ceremonial. And actually, it's like a war dance. It's what they used to do when there was warfare. This is how they would threaten another tribe. They would try to appear as big as they could possibly be, which means jump up in the air and yell and scream and shake your spear. But it's quite a welcome in the back.
John, you said that the hut was only 5 foot tall and the men are what, 6, 7 feet?
Yeah, I learned how to fold myself up. I'll tell you about going inside next week.
So how much taller would an average man be than you?
Well, I would say the average might be my height. There were a few that were a little shorter, but there were several that were 4 or 5 inches taller than I was. And they're thin as rails. I mean, they have so much stamina, it's unbelievable, because there isn't an ounce of extra flesh on their bones, because they don't get a whole lot to eat.
I thought I brought him up here, but the pictures are on the table of how high they jump. One of them is way up in the air. You would never think a human being could jump that far. But that's how they protected themselves from animals when they were young. They would just jump all the way up. And so you went and told them.
So, in answer to your question, I was invited by the chief's son to go into the chief's hut. And as far as I could tell, this was no different than any other hut in the village. And so the entrance is about 4 feet tall, and it was like a little tunnel. You went in this tunnel, and then you curved around in a U shape, and then you went into the hut. And so the purpose of that was that an animal would not be able to come charging directly into the hut, nor would some kind of an enemy. Okay, they have to, by the time I was all, 4 feet, I'm like this going in this hut. I'm not ready to attack anybody. I couldn't kill anybody from that position, so it works. And then when I get inside, it is pitch dark. And gradually, as my eyes adjusted, I see there's a little charcoal fire burning with a pot of beans bubbling next to it that was there for, I can tell, all day. And then up above that was a wall, maybe about that inch wide, and there was a little light coming in through that. I couldn't see the details, but the chief's son who came in with us, he said, he led my hand over to this place to sit, which felt like a hard piece of wood. I couldn't tell exactly what I was sitting in. It was something solid, about 6 inches off the ground. And there were 3 of us in there from our vehicle. And so we were sitting there, and he spoke English, by the way. And he explained that this common room, which was probably 10 feet across, 8 or 10 feet across, was where the whole family lived. This is where they cooked, this is where they ate their meals, this is where they talked, this is where they did everything except sleep. And behind where I was sitting was this little tiny alcove, much lower roof line. And that was where the kids slept. And then behind the chief's son across the other side of the house was another little alcove, and that's where the chief and his wife slept. And that's it. One pot, a few beans, and a place to sleep. And that was their life. And as we had seen these people walking everywhere we drove, between different lodges and game preserves, maybe 50 feet off the road or somewhere further off the road, there were people walking, lots and lots of people walking. And they all had these colorful clothes on. And they were just walking along. Sometimes they'd stand there. They could stand on one leg and talk to each other. But they walked 10 or 20 miles for water, for the food they can't grow and eat themselves. This was dry season, so the cattle, half the men had gone and taken the cattle out into the hills where there was better water. And so a lot of the women and children were hiking up there every so often to spend 2 or 3 days and help take care of the cattle, and then they'd come back with another group of women. These people think nothing of walking 20 miles. And then whatever they pick up, whatever they buy, whatever like water, the women always had these great big jars of water on their heads. It's like what you read about. And they walk these incredible distances, and they're so erect. And it just takes their time. There's a feeling there's no hurry.
Well,
absolutely, they've got all the time in the world. If something happens and they don't get there tonight, they'll just stop and they'll lie down on the ground and they'll sleep, and then they'll get up and go out the next day.
well, did I tell you what happened while you were in the chief's house?
You didn't tell that. You told me what happened. You didn't tell that.
Well, the Maasai spirit guide said she wanted to talk with me. And so I went over there and we sat down, and she talked to me partly in Swahili and partly in English. And I understood most of what she said. And she said, you need to make the world better. Don't be around negativity, and don't hang out where anybody's being critical of you because you're mama. And she meant you're older now. And you need to do what you can to either leave or change it when it's negative. And she was very clear. And I was so moved. And we had been seeing animals since 7 a.m. And then we had stopped at the Maasai village, and she said those things to me. And then we went to see more animals, and we got to our hut. When we got to the next lodge, it was 8 o'clock at night, and we'd started at 7 in the morning. And our hut was the farthest one away. Here's the lodge, and then there's the hut. And I meant to make that picture bigger, but I didn't for some. So here's the hut, here's the hut. We keep going. And John and I are the oldest people on our tour, and we have the farthest to go. So we have about a mile to go. And we get into our hut, and we both collapse on the bed. So we didn't go to the bathroom. We didn't have dinner. We didn't do anything. And every night, we always ask, here we are away from civilization. There was no electricity. There was no anything. But we always ask for a king-size bed. Because if we don't, his feet fall over the bottom of the bed. So we always got to sleep together. This night, they were twin beds. And they were in separate parts of the hut. And in the middle of the night, I heard somebody talking to me. I woke up, and it was the Maasai spirit guide, and she was standing there. And I tried to wake John, but I couldn't find him. You know, I'm so used to him being right next to me. And so I finally tried to wake him over in his bed, and he just wouldn't wake up. So I'm trying to think, am I having a dream, or is she back here again? And so she got more to tell me, but she sounded so angry with me. I was so surprised. I swear to you, the voice sounded anger. And she said, you're not doing the right thing. You're not doing enough, and you have to do more to make it better. And she said, and don't take any negativity. So I need water. I got out of the bed after I couldn't wake him, and I got out of the bed to go to her. And as she left, I fell through the mosquito netting. I had forgotten there was a mosquito netting all around the beds. And I had the bump. Well, this isn't one of the worst, but my whole face was bruised. And I'll pass some of these around because that doctor is such a dear. I just want to keep them forever and have my grandchildren's. I mean, I have little ones. I want to pass some of these the little pictures. Oh, there's some more. Well, I felt there was a first hut, there was a concrete floor, there was no rug.
Not even tile, not even anything.
My whole face was bruised. I was black and blue, this entire face.
That woke me up.
You wouldn't have recognized.
That woke me, and I heard crash.
He finally woke up. I finally figured out a way to wake him. So the next.
So here we are.
Yeah.
We're in this remote hut. This is again. There's no phone. You don't pick up.
ice.
Well, nothing in the room. So you don't pick up the phone and say help. It doesn't work. So I get my clothes on and I go running up to the center part of the lodge where we had meals and everything. And there's somebody behind the desk all night. So I go over and I tell him I need. This is what happened. And he said, "Oh, I get the doctor. You wait here." Boy, within 5 minutes, this doctor comes out, gets together with me, and hustling down to the hut, checks Natalie over, and makes sure that she hasn't got any major problems, there's no concussion, there's no, her eyes are the same size, she's not bleeding from nose or ears or anything like that. And he said, I don't think you've done anything serious. And he gave us some painkillers and some antibiotics, and also we did get a bag of ice. They had a plastic bag. I had some Ziploc. I didn't have any Ziploc bags. I just put it in a regular bag.
So I just had it that one night.
But I had a Ziploc, so I gave me a Ziploc bag. We came back with some ice, and she put it on that night. But then the next day, she had a bump on her forehead that was probably half an inch high.
I wish I
2 inches around.
I pictured that.
And the purple, as you could see, the purple started
all over.
just drooping down. Just migrated down and got all the way down to her jawline. The whole side of her face was bright purple, black, red. And even over on this side, under her eye and alongside her nose, got to be purple and angry red. And so that's how she greeted the next day. And we're in the safari. We have 5 days to go. We're at the furthest.
We got this on the airplane. Wasn't that lucky I had it? I couldn't open this eye.
The eye was swollen shut. And the doctor was afraid if she kept it like this and dust got in there, it would irritate her. So he said, close it. So she gets up the next day and we're due to go out on a game drive, most of the day and everything. And I said, how are you? I'm worried about her and if you want to leave, we can probably figure out a way. We had insurance and they would have
We're in the bush.
They would have flown us out. We were in the Serengeti plain, the furthest we ever got from civilization. It was in the middle of the Serengeti Desert, which is a huge, huge thing. The Rift Valley goes for 3,000 miles. And I said, what do you want to do? And she said, well, I don't want to give this up because I feel fine. I said,
The pain
okay.
was the most unbelievable.
So we kind of talked to Darius about it, and he finally ended up giving her the front seat of the vehicle because it was easier to get in and out, and it was more comfortable until we bounced around a lot. And of course she could close the window and the dust would go back where we were, so that was the only thing that we could do to make her comfortable on top of full of painkillers. But, good sport. I said she was a good sport about 5 times a day because I was just incredibly amazed at her willingness to just suspend us, to just act like it wasn't there, and she really did. And only when she got up in the morning, she said, "Oh my God!" Looked at herself in the mirror for the first time, since yesterday, and she said, oh, because
It was getting worse each day.
Worse every day. But then somehow you seem to forget it.
Well, I was in the front seat with Desdarius, and they were all back there chattering, and they were, I know they were seeing a lot more animals than I was seeing, but I was having a wonderful conversation with him. And he was would radio ahead to the next lodge and say, there's a woman here who fell on her head, make sure there's a doctor there. He was the most spiritual man, and then I would listen to him radioing and talking to his children, his wife and children, and I would hear him say, although it was mostly, I would hear him say, I'm going to get you shoes, I'm going to get the children shoes on this trip, and I'll wait till the next tour, I'll get myself shoes. So I looked at John, he looked at me. We knew we were going to find some place where we were going to get him shoes for a tip. And so he would radio in, and I would hear him talking in Swahili, but in between the Swahili, I would hear him say, Obama, and what was the other word I heard him say? I don't know, I think I heard him say Obama, and maybe I heard him say, I don't think I heard him say doctor. I heard a couple English words, but I always heard, as he radioed in, I always heard the word Obama. So we get to each lodge, they're standing out in front of the lodge, the waiters, the cooks, the manager, the doctor, everybody screaming, the Obama people are here. So, you know how, most of you are younger than I am, so you may not know, but the doctors used to make house calls. Well, we had, in every lodge, there was a doctor who made hut calls. And so, the doctor in the lodge, he also goes to all the countryside, if anybody needs him, so there is a doctor around. And every time, then Desdarius said, you make sure they get the closest lodge. Even though we were older than most of those people, they'd given us the farthest hut because they just thought we wanted privacy. And so they gave us from then on the hut that was really close. And there was the doctor sitting on my bed. And the doctor was so sweet. Every doctor went through everything they could, and they stayed a long time. Like a doctor call would last an hour, because he would tell us all about what it was like to grow up there, all about how he got medical school, and ask us how come we wore Obama buttons. I had on my robe, but I put my Obama button on my robe.
Well, you learned by then it was a good thing to
So what did that? The one doctor that came in, and he knocked on the door first.
About the third time this happened, we were starting to expect it. Where's the doctor? So we get to this one lodge, and the doctor comes down and knocks on the door. And I open the door, and he walks in. And I hear this gospel music playing, kind of in the background, country, western gospel,
That was
rockabilly kind of stuff. Looking around, and he comes in, and he sits down on the bed, and I said, I hear music. And he said, oh, and he looked down, he's got this thing in his pocket like a cell phone, he's playing music. So then he takes a look at Natalie, and takes the bandage off, and makes sure it's all right, puts another bandage on.
But then he said to you,
we're talking story. All these doctors have a lot of time. Oh yes, well, where we're from, everything. And he looks at our names, and he looks at me, and he looks down, and he looks at me, and he says, John Tyler. Oh, I saw your picture in the paper. This is in Lake Manyara, Tanzania. I mean, I have never been anywhere close to this place. Oh, I saw your picture in the paper. I said, really? What was it for? I said, oh, you are well known. I said, what do I do? Oh, you work with people on stress. Oh yeah, I actually do. So now I'm starting to get this rule of people are intuitive, they live close to the land, and they read people really well. But he said, yes, I recognize your picture. You're famous. You're a very famous man. Thank you. It's nice to meet you or something. And I just went along with him. It was just so cool.
oh, he stayed the longest of anybody, and he brought us food. Do we have a picture of all the food? Well, I have some big pictures over there, but he brought us all the desserts on the buffet.
He did. He spent time with Natalie, and he said, have you had dinner yet? And we said, no. And he said, well, you don't have to go up there. I will bring you food. So the doctor went up, and pretty soon he comes down with these two guys in tows, and they're all carrying big plates of dinner and a huge plate of desserts. and we ate in our room. And they don't have room service. They don't do room service, but we got doctor room service. They couldn't do enough.
How many Obama buttons did you give away?
We sold a bunch of, we took about 20 with us.
Well, at the conference we made $800 from our friends buying $100 a button. We had no idea of asking for $100 a button. But our friend from Colorado, Abe Wagner, said, a button, here's $100, and that started it. And so everybody at our table wanted to keep up with Abe because he's one of the best known TA therapists. So then after we had $800, we just about ran out of buttons, but we had a few, then we gave the rest away until we were out of them.
Every place that people saw the button, they said, you have one for me? You have one for
everywhere.
me? And we gave a few away, and then I realized, if we give these away, there goes our passport. So we gave away all but the two that we were wearing. Except that was everybody won. We could have given away hundreds, easily. It was incredible.
Were you able to register some of these Obama supporters?
Yes.
I called Acorn and gave them a name.
The news, people all over the United States should know
How all the people in other
if they
countries.
don't already, how he's perceived and how
Oh,
we will be
It's
perceived.
extraordinary. He represents the best of what this country has done.
What people said,
All around the world.
well, people said to us at the conference, he could talk to my leader. He would be your first president who would be able to talk to my leader.
He would listen to my leader.
Yes.
That was the idea. He will listen. He will listen to what we need.
So in the restaurants at the lodges, when they saw my face like that, they all said, Mama, I'll take care of you. So the waiter, Moshe, he said, Mama, you sit there, I'm going to take care of your plate. So he went out to the buffet and he got me this plate filled with food. And he said, Mama, the more you eat, the sooner your face will get better. I think that's how they grew up if they had enough to eat. Was he Jewish?
His name was Moshe.
Moshe, yeah. So he was wearing, Moshe was wearing a purple and green, the most gorgeous outfit to wait on us. And I said, I love your outfit. Can you get me some material like that? And he said, no, I can't.
He said, no, he said, they give us the material, we have to make our own. They just give us enough to make our own. We don't have to actually give away.
So we were in that lodge for 2 days, so we got to know Moshe because he waited on us regularly. And just as we're going out the door, as we're leaving that lodge, gave us each, wait, I want this one. Gave us each a hat like his outfit. Doesn't my hair look
The whole outfit was this fabric. Oh, he had a pantsuit on.
That is adorable.
Beautiful. But he said, don't you tell anybody I did this.
But you can see, honey, put it on again. Let me just see. Oh, yes. Wear that to bed tonight, okay?
Okay, Mama, don't worry, I'll bring you dinner.
Leave it on, it looks good.
Well, they were just so nice to us in every lodge, and it was just that that's how they are. I just left a part of my heart there. When our son-in-law has a talk show radio in Chicago, and he had us on his talk show. And so he asked us all these questions, and we told him all this. So that was our rehearsal. Now we're telling you everything we told Lloyd. So Lloyd said, my gosh, it sounds like you love Africa. Do you want to go back and live there? I said, no, I just want to bring back some of that African heart here. And
Well, for one example, we were at the big crater, Ngoro crater, very well-known site where they discovered some of the earliest remains of humans in the gorge there. Ngoro, the rim is about 8,000 feet high, and it's quite cold up there. We stayed at a lodge up on top of the rim. And This time, the manager brought us there. It was a white woman from England.
That was the first person that was white.
The only white person we saw managing any of these lodges. And I talked to her when she comes in, brings us dinner, sits down, we're talking story. And I said, well, what's it like, living up here? You're remote, you're away from everything. You're the only white person in this whole place. She said, these are the most wonderful people to work with. They never criticize each other. They never say anything bad about anybody. They never ask for anything special for themselves. They couldn't be nicer to each other. There's none of that office politicking that you hear about, when people get together and they're competing, but there's no competition there. Everybody gets along, and they're friendly, and they're naturally happy. They're naturally smiling. And again, as I've said so many times, they have very little. They really don't have much. But they manage I believe because they're so connected with each other. They really do feel like it's a big family. They actually, because of Natalie's bump and stuff, they included us more in that than maybe we would have been included without it. That's possibly a good thing.
Well, when people would come up to me and look at my face and just say, I'm sorry. Just say, I'm sorry. And how we found it so different when we got off the plane, and it's nothing against London or nothing against LA where we were, but people would go the other way because maybe I had a disease or something. Or
maybe I beat her up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it looked, how when a husband beats up a
But in Africa, they just couldn't have been more natural. They were completely comfortable with, so sorry, what happened? I'm so sorry. They were...
It was so beautiful to have them say that. Just to say, I'm so sorry. And not to, yes.
What is their spirituality? Because it sounds like this feeling of connectedness.
It's hard to say because Desdarius told me that he's Christian, but he said his roots were just about family love. And so the different tribes had different kinds of roots, though.
I didn't get any sense of any pervasive religion. I didn't see a lot of churches. There were some churches. But I don't know I guess they were mostly missionary created. I don't think there's an inside, religious movement within the country as much.
I've read where the Maasai basic religion is called MAUI, and MAUI is the word for God. And it comes from their own creative story. Yeah. And then the Christians meet.
I imagine it's rooted in nature. If I had to guess, I would say that it's rooted in awe of nature.
Well, that's how I felt when we were driving along and I looked in the eye of the elephant. I just felt like I was seeing God when I looked in the elephant's eye. And, I was in the front with Desdarius, and they were all in the back, so they were talking about the animals, and I wasn't talking except to ask him questions, and he would tell me things, and it was just so quiet and silent up in the front, and I really got to feel the nature and the animals, and to feel his spirit, and just the things he told me that I wouldn't have known. And what he told me about Nelson Mandela, that Nelson Mandela was part of a tribe.
He was a bushman.
They were so uncivilized, and that some...
remember the movie The Gods Must Be Crazy?
Yes. Well,
those are bushmen. And if you think about it, their faces are really round. Well, Nelson Mandela has that same round face.
But who were those people that the missionaries took him and gave him an education? And the same thing happened. The next picture, I wish I had a big one. Maybe I do over there. But when we went to the AIDS hospital, and this a picture. If you look in this doctor's eyes, you will see that. I don't want to go get real spiritual on y'all, but that's the way.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Come on, Natalie.
Well, that doctor at the AIDS hospital, I sat and I talked with him. I don't know how long John was gone, because John went to tour the village, and I stayed in the AIDS hospital. And the doctor and I talked for so long. And he told me that when people come to the hospital, they must take classes on how not to spread AIDS. And if they don't already have AIDS, on how to avoid AIDS. And they must bring their children, and their children play in the children's room. and that the people in the hospital, that there are many people in that town who have AIDS, and that this sweet man, he said they have very little money, but they'll do the best they can. And we talked and cried together for about 2 hours. And just to look at his face, he was such a beautiful man. And then Darius said to me, do you know that he told me that he was part of it? I thought he said the Maasai tribe. And he said, and they took him, some of those missionaries took him and gave him an education too. And now there is a doctor and the head of the AIDS hospital. And so afterwards, you went to the village while I was there.
We had a tour for about 2 hours. We walked through the outlying part of the village where there were a few huts, and we walked through and they grow bananas. They grow a few things to sell in the market. This was Sunday, which is market day, so it was full of people selling things. But we walked through the places where they had banana plantations, and they had yams and papayas and the same kinds of things actually grow here. And the reason it was in this location was there was a river that came down out of the mountains, out of the crater, and it flowed all year round, unlike most of the rivers there that dry up in the dry season. So they had water all year round, so they could grow things. And I walked through the places where they were growing their crops that they sold and they ate themselves, and then every little hut has its own garden where they grow their own food. And we went by the schoolhouse, and in the schoolyard there was a garden, and the teachers and the kids grow food there that they eat while the kids are in school. Everybody there grows their own food. And then we walked through all of this part into the village proper, which is on the road where things are much closer together, and it was market days. I said, so all these stalls are open. Incredible variety of vegetables and grains and fish and some meat you wouldn't want to touch. But this is how they make a little income they earn.
And then what, you brought me back?
And when I brought you back.
Oh, you went to that, you told me you went to the
Oh, that's right, the woodcutter. I have notes so I don't forget that. Yes.
Did the Messiah offer you nutrition or drink?
No, we didn't get offered anything by the Maasai tribe, but in the village, part of our tour was we went to a pub.
No, their traditional drink.
Oh, you mean the blood and milk?
Yes.
No. First of all, they didn't
She
have
offered
it.
it to me, I didn't.
They had shipped the cattle off to the mountains, so they didn't even have that for themselves. And they might have, I don't know. I would have had a lot of trouble. But yeah, that's interesting, because their diet is blood, milk, meat. That's the only thing they can grow for themselves, because they're out there where there's no water. And so anything else that they want, they walk these 20 miles to the village and they buy beans and whatever, grains or something. But I did go to a pub where they had banana beer, and they described how they made it, which is just cooking it in this vat for days. And it gets this scum on the top, and they don't skim it off, they just pour it into this cup and they hand it and pass it around the room, and there's this film on top and this stuff on it. 2 men tried it. I didn't try it. Because I've heard nothing but things about your stomach. But it didn't even smell good. It wasn't even tempting. But it was fermented, and it was what the local men did when they wanted to get together and have a drink together. This is what they drank. But then I did go to a wood carving hut as part of this travel trip around the village. This was a whole family that had been brought in. They had come from another country.
Another country in Africa.
And they settled in Africa. They settled in this town because it had a market and it had water, and they could grow enough to feed themselves, and then they could apply their trade. And they made these beautiful wood carvings. And I got an ebony elephant for Natalie, because she's got this thing about elephants. And it was fun because his father was a patriarch, and then there was a couple of sons that did the roughing it out. The women made the dyes. They made their own dyes out of vegetables and herbs and stuff like that. And then the father smoothed everything off, and he sold it, and he collected the money. He negotiated with them. He didn't pay whatever they asked for anything anyway. And it was hard for me because we're talking about $2. Can I get it for $1? And that means so much to them, and so little to me, but it's what they expect. It's part of the interaction, it's the haggling. And they need to feel like they got the better of you, but it wasn't easy. If you just pay them what they want, there's like no fun to it. So we negotiated about it, and then you say, well, okay, if you want that much, I want this one too, and then you play all kinds of little games with them, and they laugh, and they're smiling the whole time, having a great old time. I think he knew what I meant.
So then after John came back from the village, then we went out, and the people in the AIDS hospital and the doctors and some of the people in the village made us the greatest lunch. And they had fish on the grill, and they had vegetables, and it was...
It all came from the village supply, the village stores.
So it was getting toward the end of our trip, and we had to leave Desterius.
Oh, this was our last day. We all went out to lunch together.
This was the hardest thing to leave
Flame-free
Desterius.
restaurant.
Desterius had told me so much about his life, and I heard his voice soften when he radioed into his wife and children. And John and I stopped at a store, and we were the only customers in the store, and we found a pair of shoes that just fit Desterius. And so he was able to get his shoes on the trip too, not just the shoes for his wife and children. And he was so happy. And then John, because my face, you wanted to say something about the shoes? No. Well, I just want to say about what happened with how you were in the back seat, and I was in the front with Desterius. And John kept saying, "Sweetie, do you want some cold water?" And he was very concerned about me because of the pain I was having. And Desterius said to me, "You know, this is a wonderful role model that he's doing for the other husbands on this trip." And there was one couple on the trip where she was saying he was just a grouch, and they were just how some couples don't get along if they're on vacation because they can't go to work. And so he was saying, you know, I hope they really learn from the way John treats you. And he said, and when I go home to my wife, I'm going to remember exactly what John lovely. Oh, we had just the best friendship. And so then, way toward the end, when we had to say goodbye to Desterius, and I have a picture of me hugging Desterius, but that's over on the table. And so we hugged each other goodbye, and he gave us his email, and then...
We gave him the shoes, and we gave him the tip.
The money, and he was fine, thank you,
I was very appreciative, but then I took off my remaining
It was his
Obama
last Obama button.
And I gave it to Desterius, and his whole face lit up. Because he had heard everybody asking for the buttons the whole time we were on this trip. And he said, no, we don't have any. I gave him mine. And he was so happy. We went running over, and there's a bunch of other drivers standing around in their vehicles talking. And he goes up and he says, my brother going to be president of the United States. My brother going to be
Jumping
president
up
of the
and down,
United States.
my brother will be president of the
And
United
he's pointing
States.
to the button. So I know, and this is him with the button. He is so happy. And that may be the real fast one.
Oh, that man was so beautiful. And when he got that button, that meant everything to him. Oh, it's got to happen, or I don't know what I'll do. I'll go back to Africa. Right. Well, we had to leave him. I just want to say what I learned. I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget it. I learned that one person can change the world. And I know, 150 years ago we had slavery in this country. And Abraham Lincoln changed that. And if it hadn't been for Abraham Lincoln, we wouldn't have had Martin Luther King. Yeah. And Martin Luther King changed things for African Americans in this country. And if it hadn't been for that example of Martin Luther King, then Nelson Mandela would not have been able to make the big changes he did. And if it weren't for those big changes, we might not have been able to make this change of having President Barack Obama. So I did learn, it is important. One person can make a difference. And the other thing, I don't know how many of you are reading the book. Where is the book? Oh, here it is. The book that our book discussion is reading, You're Not Going Crazy, you're just waking up. these are the stages in the book, and these are the stages I went through. And you went and talked about the stages in Africa, but I went through, first was the dismantling. I'm in a whole different culture. They're all speaking a different language. He seems to understand them. And I don't know what's going on. And the women are wearing with big baskets and things in their heads, and everything is so different. And I felt like I went through a dismantling. Then I fell, and the next stage was emptiness. I wasn't thinking about, is something wrong with me? Do I need to have x-rays or anything? I just really became empty. It was just a complete emptiness. And then the next stage was a disorientation. I had so much pain in my face, and people were staring at me. I've never been anywhere where everybody stared at me so much. And then when people came up to me and said, I'm sorry, I felt like it was just a disorientation. I'd never really experienced anything like that before. And the next stage was rebuilding. And as part of the rebuilding, I was in the front with Desterius, and I was seeing the animals, and I was quiet, and they were all chattering in the back, and they were yelling, and they were all standing up seeing the animals, and I wasn't even seeing the animals yet. I was remembering how 25 years ago, when John and I were just starting our relationship, and he came over to my house and went to the living room, and he made a phone call, and he called a woman he had been dating. And he said to her, I'm not going to be able to go on the safari to Africa with you. And he said, I just met the woman I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, so I won't be going on the safari. And I thought, oh my God. And now we're going on the safari. We're on the safari. And so I couldn't say, oh, maybe I should go to the hospital, maybe I should get an x-ray or something or another thing. We are finally going on that safari. And, and I think that was the rebuilding. And the new life was, I learned so much there that I have got to keep doing what I'm doing. I got to spend Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday making calls to some of those other states, Florida and Ohio, and where's the other one? And I have to keep doing what I'm doing because one person can make a difference. And if there's one person everywhere, lots of one persons, we are going to have a difference. And I know that I learned this much more than I ever learned it before there. I just know, there are so many times since I've been back, I thought, this dress is purple. I got all this in Africa. Oh, I forgot something so important. After the fall, we were driving by the Maasai village again. Maasai village. I finally learned how to pronounce it. And the same woman, the spirit guide was standing out there, and that's what she was doing there. I got these earrings, I got this necklace, and I got the zebra rings and the bracelet. And I bought a few things for friends and grandkids when we were there, but it seemed like she wanted me to have more. And so we stopped. Asteria said, do you want to stop? And I said, yes, he did everything I asked him to do because of my face and my Obama button. And so we stopped. And then when I got out, she said, she went like this. So she told me she saw me sleep. And I was trying to wake him that night because I just couldn't believe that she was there, and I thought I dreamed it. But she said it, and she did it twice. Wow. So that was it for me. And then you said you were going to say.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, talking about the stages. It was so clear to me that what happened in South Africa, this explains the process of what happens when you go through challenges and crisis and how you come out the other side. The first stage is dismantling, and that was happening in South Africa a few years before Nelson Mandela was released, when the outside world was putting such pressure, and there was lots of internal pressure to break the system apart. And it slowly started to fall apart. And that was the dismantling. It was an unwilling, unintentional dismantling imposed from the outside, which is how it often happens. And there was a lot of struggle around that. But then once he was released from prison, there was that time of emptiness where the old system was gone and no one knew what was going to come in And so there was this emptiness, there was disorientation, there was confusion, there were a lot of different thoughts. We did a lot of reading before we went on what happened in South Africa around this time. And there was tremendous confusion in the country of different factions. The white people wanted to do it one way, which was going to protect them from the blacks. Some of the blacks wanted to do it a lot more violent way, having a lot of trials, show trials and war crime type trials. And then Mandela and Tutu found the middle way. They found order out of this chaos, this truth and reconciliation process, which began the rebuilding. So they went through all these stages so clearly, so classically, that they described in this book. And I could just imagine, I didn't have the book when I was there. I talked to the people about what happened, and I understood what they'd gone through and got a sense of the depth of their pain and their joy at the same time around what happened, how hard it was for them to live in the country before it became free, and how joyful they are to live in the country after, now that it is free. But now, with what's in this book that we're studying in these book groups, is I understand the steps that they went through to get here. And it's just extraordinary. And they do have a new life. This country is a new country. That woman said, I've got my country back. And that's how it feels to them, the ones who are working to make it better and make it better. And I related it to what's going on in this country, to a lesser degree. We've gone through a real dismantling in this country. We're going through the end of it now. I don't know if we're at the end, I don't think we are, but we're going through it. And there's going to be this feeling of emptiness, and there's going to be the confusion and disorientation. And out of that will come rebuilding. And we can decide how much we want to be involved in that rebuilding, because that's what the people in South Africa had, was a sense of involvement. They were part of the process. That's how they got such incredible satisfaction and joy from what was happening. Because they felt like they could make a difference. So that's another thing. I got that, plus just being around these people who have so much heart, so little everything else. And the heart is what carries them through their day. And they don't worry. I never heard anybody say I'm worried about anything. Never. Oh yeah, everything's all right. No, how are you?
Yeah, I was thinking, we were on the beach, I think it was yesterday, and I was thinking about how I don't have the right color shoes. I just have black shoes because Myrna won't let me wear shoes that don't have heels because she's afraid I'm going to fall. And so I only have these black shoes because I ordered purple ones and they didn't fit. And so I was thinking, oh, we have to go to the shoe store. And then I thought, come on, that's not what's important. Does anybody have any questions?
Any other questions that come up?
I just want to share something. I think maybe you have to be from another country to see what you saw.
Where are you from?
I'm from Canada, and I saw that here. The same thing happened to me here. My second day in Maui, I fell down, fractured my wrist, got a cast, and my face was the same as yours.
Wow.
And everywhere I went, they knew I was a tourist. They kept saying, I'm sorry,
Oh, they
I'm
did?
sorry. Exactly the same as you.
Oh.
Right here in the
People in
States.
Maui say that?
Well, it wasn't just Hawaiians, it was everybody.
Oh.
They kept saying, oh, I'm so sorry you fell down.
Oh.
So it's the same situation that I found here that you found.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Doesn't it feel good?
Oh, it feels great. I felt so accepted because I thought, what the heck am I doing here? All those years in Canada of skiing, skating, snow, ice, never broke anything. I come to beautiful Maui and I break bone, and it sort of made up. It made it better.
Yeah, your songs about like doctors and stuff.
I can't hear
But
you.
that is the part where you told us about the doctors over there, the care that they gave you, how much time you spent.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah. When Laura and I were in Brazil, and she became sick.
Speak up.
Speak up loud, real loud.
Let us shout.
Laura was in the hospital in Brazil. She became sick from a medical procedure she had done in Florida. And so she was in the hospital for 1 month. No. So there's a world out there of people with problems.
Well, the last day at one of the lodges, I think it was the last day at a lodge, the doctor and Desterius, our guide, were sitting in the lobby talking. And they were talking in Swahili. I just heard him say Natalie. And so the doctor and our guide were talking, and every other few words was Natalie. So I sat down and I said, "Are you talking about me?" And Desterius said, "The doctor wants me to take you to the hospital to make sure that you've been x-rayed, that something goes wrong, and that will be way out of our way. But he thinks it's important, and I wish I didn't have to do it." And Desterius was dropping us off in the town where he was finally going to get to see his wife and children. And so I said, "I can wait till I don't have to go to the hospital. I don't need to go to the hospital." But to think that they were sitting in the lobby, the doctor and the guide, talking about whether I should go to the hospital or not. And that was just so amazing. And we did wait, and I did get x-rays at home, and I got an MRI, and everything is fine. So I'm still acting crazy, but not anymore, so.
You have no excuse.
Any other questions?
Sort of this after thing. When you were talking about Maasai people, when they separated, you said some had taken the animals up into the hills, and why did the others stay down?
Well, that was, they wouldn't leave their village. They needed to stay and protect their village.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because that's where they lived. The cattle, this was like sending the cattle up in the hills for the summer, to graze with a few people to take care of them and bring them back in the winter. That's what they were doing. They just took them up where there was some water. And about half the men, they told us, were with them, but maybe less. And then, as I said, women and other men would wander up there and then send some men back, so they just took turns. But their home was the village. That was where they were centered, and they would not leave that. If they left that, they would be to go to build a new village. They're very rooted in the land. That's their central place. Very strong.
What did you eat when you were in Maasai?
Oh, in the Maasai, we didn't, we had a big breakfast beforehand.
Yeah, we didn't eat their food.
We spent a good half a day with them, but then we went to the next lodge for our great delicious
The
meal.
food was actually very good in these lodges.
I wanted to say something about those children. Is it Uri and Matsa?
Ulu.
I want to tell them because how did they do? So when they come back, but make sure we know.
Was the food kind of Western, like the desserts look that way?
Yes, yes, yeah. They had. They usually had a fish, a chicken, and a beef dish of some kind. Some of it was done with sauces. Some like the flavors, some like the spicy. Sometimes they would have potatoes. They would have peas. They would have a lot of fresh green salads. The greens were fresh. I don't know where they got it from, but they were delicious, and the food tasted good. It tasted fresh.
Well, the cooks all cared. They were so
And
dear.
I'm thinking to myself, it's in a sense it's organic because they don't have a way to bring in fertilizer, chemicals. They just don't do that. First, it's too expensive, and second, they can't transport it. So I got a feeling that this was grown in their local gardens, and it is essentially organic, and it tasted good. I felt really good. You felt really good eating it. And we didn't get sick ever. No kind of tummy trouble of any kind, and I had a lot of energy, and I left my vitamins home, and I felt great. So yeah, I was pleased with the food. The food was better in Africa than it was anywhere else.
It was better than it was in London.
How was the water?
We didn't ever drink water from the tap. Every day there were 2 bottles of water in the vehicle for us to drink, and they served us bottled water at dinner, and we always carried 2 bottles of water with us back to the room, so we always had bottled water. And we've just been warned against it. It's just, they don't filter, they don't purify their water. And they've developed tolerances for whatever's in the water. They're fine with it. But we just didn't take a chance.
I just want to go back to these Obama buttons. Something Elise said. I mean, I always think of Obama as being from Hawaii, but his father was from Kenya.
Oh wait, we forgot to tell you.
Well, in Kenya, they argued so
Wait.
much with us in
How far
Kenya.
is
In
Kenya
Ken-
from where you
In
were?
Kenya, they would keep saying, Obama was born here in
Look,
Kenya.
You gotta tell them the circumstances. We're in a vehicle on our way to the airport, and the traffic is horrendous in Nairobi. And Nairobi has the worst traffic I've ever been there.
This was in Kenya.
Okay, that's Nairobi, yeah. So we're in traffic, inching along, and if you've ever been to Tijuana, Mexico, you know how they sell things, people come up and try to sell you stuff. It was just like that. There are all kinds of people. They sell maps, they sell vegetables, they sell all kinds of things. And she had, I don't have my own button.
He gave it to this there.
So nobody's on my side of the vehicle. They're all on Natalie's side, talking to her about the Obama button. And what did he say?
Well, he's arguing.
He says, you know, his father was. He says he was born here. He's one of us.
So I said, you can't be president of the United States. You can't run for president of the United States unless you're born in the United States. He says, you're wrong. He was born here in Canada.
He's one of us.
Don't start that rumor.
Yeah. Right.
There is a lawsuit in St. Louis already, and they're trying to say that he was a naturalized citizen and not unnatural born. You have to be natural born. And they're saying that his birth certificate from Honolulu isn't right. All the experts who have looked at it said it is, but there's still a lawsuit.
Oh.
It's already out there, Natalie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I mean, these people were strictly proud.
Yeah. And they were asking questions.
Spear talking.
Oh,
And then they would say, he would say, ma'am, may I ask you a question? They always spoke such perfect English, and he would say, may I ask you a question? And I would say, of course. He said, why are you voting for Obama? So they wanted to really hear him. So then he would say, as a white person, do you feel comfortable having a president who's African American? Or he'd say African, because he still insisted he was born in Kenya. And they were asking us so many questions. They were asking me because he didn't have his button any longer, so I had to do the talking. But then when we got to the airport, everybody said, Mama, you go ahead. It was the way they treated
we
us.
jumped the lines. We got to sit.
You know, here, I don't tell people how old I am because I want people to know I'm still fun. And so, there, you're so proud. You know how old I am because then they call you Mama and they give you a seat and they treat you the best possible way. It's really nice being on
Definitely,
there.
definitely perks. Definitely.
And then at the restaurant, the waiters, a lot of the waiters started calling me Mama, and Moshe, the last day, he started calling you Papa. It took him a little longer.
Well, and then Desiree started calling me brother. And,
Oh, that was the last
we all
day.
got real friendly there.
And when he called you brother, I knew that he really made it.
What was the currency?
Tanzania, it's like 1,000 Tanzanians or something. I forget what they call it. To a dollar.
Tanzania is their money.
You can't
You're looking at prices of
Bye,
things.
sweetie.
This is 400. This is $40,000. Tanzanian dollars. And you do a quick addition, well, that's $40. But
What about the rand? What is it now?
sorry,
What is the rand in South Africa?
the rand is in South Africa. That was about 2 to the dollar. No, is that right? No, 40 to the dollar. 40 to
I was
something.
there 35 years ago, and it was $1.65 for 1 rand.
Really? Well, they were just traumatized when people pulled the economic support out. They had to do everything. The only reason I'm really aware of it is that everything at the conference we paid for in advance. And they priced it to us in dollars, and then it came through on my credit card in rand. And I said, whoa, 9,000 rand for this. And it turns out to be like $400. But South Africa is the rand, Kenya is a dollar, and it's, I forgot the exchange rate. But it was expensive. When you go into the countries, you have to pay about $100 a piece for visas and entry fees. And it's cash. They won't take any credit cards. They take traveler's charge. So, yeah, I had to carry a lot of cash, which I'm not used to doing.
Especially American money. They love American money.
Oh, they love
They
it.
don't like Canadian food.
Really?
That's what when we Canadians travel, we get American dollars.
Funny.
I just wanted to thank you and
thank you.
Natalie. You're such an inspiration
Oh.
to me. Thank you so much. I can't think of better ambassadors.
Oh, what?
This is like a love offering. Whatever
This is
you
a love
feel-
offering for the
whatever you
church.
feel like it's going to go to the church. So.
Oh, if you paid up there, then don't do it here. But
Unless you want
Yes, if you
do
want to
do
pay.
whatever you want. And I just like to leave a little about it because we got to have this space.
No, I was thinking the same thing. Thank goodness it was you that went with your Obama buttons, not somebody else
With push
on that
buttons.
trip or something. Spreading their, philosophy or their
Oh.
or something.
The amazing thing is that they all heard of Obama. It meant so much to them. Oh.
You should let Obama know.
You know, I was thinking that. I think he ought to know. The people all over the world know about it.
And I bet his grandmother would let him.
Yes, and he's here on, well, no, he left. But he was there, she's very sick. We sent her a get well card if anybody wants to do that.
Yeah,
We send it to the Democratic Party in Oahu, and she'll get it. It's just, so wonderful. It's so unbelievable. We wore the buttons because we were going to the conference and we always see our same friends there from this country, and we knew that they would want to have Obama buttons. We had no idea that every place we went, people from all over would have heard of Obama. Who would know?
Maybe you should send some over, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, we could.
You could?
We could.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, if he doesn't win, I'm not going to be able to ever face this area.
He's gonna win.
Of course, because that's when I have to connect with Darius and let him know, because he will be so happy.
Do they hear our news? I mean,
We get a lot of it on the BBC. A lot of it's on the BBC. They have a CNN, at least when we stayed in a hotel before we flew out in Nairobi. They had a CNN channel, but it was like no CNN channel I'd ever seen. It had some really weird programming, and there was nothing international about news coverage. It was all local news. But as Darius said, they watched BBC a lot. And they really respect that for objective reporting news.
Do they watch it in their villages
No.
or on?
Some of them have TVs.
Well, yeah, actually, we saw a few dishes.
And you mentioned email. You have.
Oh, yes.
Well, the ones in the city, see, they live in the city, then they have electricity, they have email, they have telephone, they have everything.
Okay.
Oh, they're very civilized, those people in the cities. Well, I mean, we have met a lot of people who are psychologists who were going to school.
Right, but when your guy
Oh, Darius, he had
Village.
a little TV, Darius
in
did.
his village.
In
Well, he
his
lived
home.
in Arusha, the city
Oh,
where
he-
he flew out.
okay.
That's where his family was. And he had to go out for 3 weeks out of the house. For example, when he dropped us off, he said he had 2 days that he could be with his family, but he had to spend the daytime pretty much getting his vehicle checked over and cleaned up and ready for the next group. And so that was his time with his family for the next 2 weeks. And he would go out for 10 days. So,
He probably brings a lot of news. I mean, those are the people that bring the news from
oh,
outside
they
the world.
talk
Yeah.
all the time. It's like when you see the Hawaiians talking stories, the same thing. These guys just stand around. I mean, we talked to him. He of course slept where we slept. We slept at a lodge. He slept at the lodge where the drivers slept. They didn't have nice private rooms.
He didn't sleep with us.
No. But he said they stayed up late talking all the time. They stayed up till 10, 11 o'clock talking. We were out by 9, and we were just exhausted. And he's driving, game spotting, thinking about taking responsibility for things, calling ahead for us to the next place and all that. And he's got all kinds of things. So I just had the most respect for him. And his abilities, he was excellent. He was so knowledgeable. And what he knew about, he told us, he just talked all the time on the drives about the topography of the land, the animals, how they do this, where they come from, how you can spot them. I mean, we would be driving along and say, lion.
Yeah.
And we'd look around.
Yeah.
There's areas we're not seeing it. Well, you look, see that little black top there, that's his ear. And they're the exact color of the grass. If you look at the pictures of the grass, that color is exactly the color of the lion. So once the lion moved, then you could see, oh, that was lion. I thought it was grass or dirt or something, but it's the lion. And because they hunt at night, they're kind of sleeping during the day.
But they
rarely can see them out in the open in the day moving around. But we did get a few times where we saw a few males and a couple of females with cubs.
Did you see a lot of giraffes? Were they moving?
So, yeah,
Oh, the
giraffes
giraffes were close to us.
See, the animals that get eaten, they feed during the day mostly, so they can go and get safe at night when the other guys are hunting. And so that's what you see mostly are the vegetarians during the day.
The peaceful animals, they are just coming right around us, Kelly.
I always think of a safari as you go out and shoot a lion and a tiger or something. Is this a different type of?
It's
is
a
there more than
peaceful,
one
the
kind?
peaceful safari.
Well, that's the old, that's where this
I
started.
think they're
It started out where the great white hunters would go to Africa and hire these local people to take them out and hunt game. And that was, safari I think is a word for trip or trek or something like that. It's not either word. But what it is now are, I mean, you have to pay like, there are a few places, private game preserves where you can hunt. I didn't want to tell you. You pay like $50,000 per animal or $100,000 per animal, and it's away from the places where we were. These are game preserves, like a national park. And so these animals are not hunted. They feel quite safe around humans. It would be a disaster if a hunter ever got in there because they could walk right up to the animal and shoot. The animals don't know to be.
So this thing that you were on is
It's
just a
called-
regular, you could go through a travel agency and book a safari.
Yes,
And
yes you
it's
can.
pretty much what you do.
They will tell you exactly the itinerary they're going to book for you. They'll tell you exactly where you're going to stay on what nights. If we were to do it over again, we would want to stay in fewer lodges and spend more time at each lodge, because we did spend more time than we wanted traveling between lodges. There are huge distances in lodges, and the roads are not good. So you're banging over these rutted roads for 4 or 5 hours traveling from one place to another.